Hey y'all! I spent my spring break out in the Wild Wild West. So like I was saying, I spent my spring break in the Wild Wild West on a His House mission trip to Arizona. This trip was especially exciting because it didn't have a specific schedule. It was more of a smorgasbord of all these different settings and situations. And the reason we structured our schedule like this, or lack of structure there is so that we could leave room for God to do his work and to move us where we felt he was calling us. So here are some examples of things that we ended up doing. We ministered at an EDM concert, visited the Hopi Native American tribe, had a snowball fight at the Grand Canyon, heard goat horror stories from Josh's uncle, baptized 2 of our team members in the bathtub, and listened to the Cars soundtrack on Route 66. And we did all of this while learning how to bring the good stuff that goes on inside the church building into our interactions with the greater community. So I'm just going to give a little story about one of those interactions that we had. And this actually happened on the plane ride on the way to Phoenix that first night. Josh Chaffin checked into the flights a little bit later than all of the rest of us, so there ended up being a seat reserved right in between us. The whole way there, we were talking about who this lucky guest was going to be. I was sure it was going to be a middle-aged woman. Josh didn't care, but we could have never prepared for the character that we encountered. A bald man with a striped shirt and a Chick-fil-A sandwich walked to our row and said, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And we knew in that moment that we were in for a wild ride. We're sitting there waiting for the plane to take off, and the man pulls out a bag of cookies. I was ready to spread the joy of Jesus. So what did I do? I sparked a conversation. I commented on his cookies. I said, "Oh, you brought some food from home." He said, "Yeah, you want one?" And we were gonna be plane pals. So I said, "Sure, I'll take one." He said, "Okay, take half of one." So I reached my hand into the Ziploc bag, broke off a piece, and he looks at me and he says, "That's not half." And I looked back at him, and he said, "To get an effect, you have to take at least half." So I said, "Oh, I didn't know you were that kind of baker." And then we giggled and Josh sat in the corner and looked out the plane window. And while it seemed very unlikely that this man was going to give his heart to the Lord this evening on the plane ride, I continued to chat with him and pursue him. And he showed me his photo album on his phone of his weed garden and also his bell peppers that he grew and his houseboat parties. And the plane was getting ready to land, and our conversations hadn't really gotten anywhere apart from his herbal essences. And Josh and I had talked to him a little bit about our mission trip and such, and Josh asked him if there was anything we could be praying for him for, and he was like, "Oh, just life in general, you know." So I was thinking, okay, alright, it just isn't in God's timing right now for us to have a spiritual conversation. So we sat there and we were getting ready to unboard, and he reaches into his bag and he pulls out this book, and I look at it and it's a devotional. And I just feel the Holy Spirit in me in this moment just go, whoosh. I was like, okay, alright, here it is. Get into the good stuff. So he pulls it out and he looks at both of us and he says, "You guys, you know what? I'm high on whatever right now, but I trust you guys. I believe in what you're doing." And he explains that he was driving a few weeks ago and he stopped to get gas and he had been in a fight with his girlfriend. Just for the first time in a long time, he decided to pray about it. He had been raised Catholic, he told us, but had fallen off as life had gone on. And when he had finished praying at this gas station, he looked up and the first thing that he saw was this devotional book. And then he told us that he just knew that he was supposed to buy it, and then said that he felt that it was intentional that he had sat in between us during this plane ride. And Josh and I were like, mm-hmm. And so we got just to share with him at the end of that plane ride just a little bit about God's forgiveness and God's love toward him. And we prayed for him, and it just took a really wacky turn. But that's just what the Holy Spirit does. And that's what God's done with this year so far. But it all works toward the greater good. Romans 8:28, y'all.